Okay, I just switched up my everyday makeup drawer for summer. This morning I was doing a little bit of organizing, a little bit of cleaning, and the mood just struck because a lot of the products in my drawer weren't things that I was reaching for super regularly. Now that the weather is super warm, I do switch up my makeup every single season anyway, but in the summertime, I definitely have very specific products I reach for. I want lightweight, comfortable products, matte, long wearing products. So I thought I would show you everything that I'm using in today's video. If you're new to these videos, I usually use this as a way to rotate through my collection all year long and make sure I'm using older products and they're not just sitting in my makeup collection going to waste. And then sometimes I'll have a couple of newer launches that I'm in the process of testing out, but it's basically just like a casual video where I swatch products, I talk about them, kind of compare formulas, and we just kind of hang out and chat about makeup. So let's jump into it, and we will start with, I usually go in the order that I do my makeup, so let's start with primers. Okay, let's actually start here. So I do have the e.l.f. bronzing drops. I've been using these quite a bit over the last few months. I have the shade Pure Gold, which I do feel like works well. If I end up finishing this anytime soon, I might try the Rose Gold shade, which I think is slightly more pink toned, but I do think this works nicely because you can definitely sheer it out. I do either mix this in with moisturizer or foundation. I typically don't wear it on its own, but it's great if you have a foundation that's a little bit too light for your skin because it helps to darken it up just a little bit, and that way you don't have to purchase like a summer shade and a winter shade. I just got this one in the mail. This one is from Milani. It is the Conceal and Perfect Sun-Kissed Liquid Bronzing Drops. So Milani just came out with 3 different options. I think they have a light, a medium, and a deep. So I have the light one, which I think will be most ideal for my skin tone. I haven't tried these at all yet, so this is going to be like my first impression as I swatch it, but I was just kind of reorganizing my makeup collection today, and I knew that I wanted to put these to the test. So let me swatch these next to each other and we can see what they look like. Okay, interesting. The textures are definitely different. So the e.l.f. formula feels a little bit thicker, and as you can see, it has slightly more pigment. The Milani formula is very, very lightweight. It's really silky, like that blended in without any effort. So I think this actually might be, just based on my very, very initial impressions, a little bit more ideal if you're wanting to wear these or apply them directly to the skin and not mix them in with a moisturizer or a foundation. The Milani formula looks a little bit more glowy. Is there actual shimmer in there? I don't really see any. It just kind of has like a slightly more obvious sheen. So I'm excited to put that one to the test. I do think that might be more ideal on days where I'm not wearing makeup because it's not going to be quite as intense on the skin. So I'll try it out in an upcoming video. I'm sure I'm going to film like a full face of drugstore makeup soon, or like a new video testing new drugstore makeup, because there are a few launches I want to try out. I do have the Danessa Yummy Skin Water Powder Serum in here. This is definitely a summertime staple for me. I wonder if they've restocked this. It has been out of stock for what feels like forever. Yeah, it's still out of stock. I feel like this is such a good summertime product, so I wish they would restock it, but I don't know. They must have really sold out. Maybe they're having like an issue with their manufacturer. I don't know. It will come in handy even if it's not the summertime, but I feel like if you have oily skin in the summertime, this is so nice because it's basically what they say. It's like a watery serum that you apply to your skin, and I like to apply it before I go in with primer or foundation, and it just sinks in very quickly, and it's not going to give you a dramatic result, but I just feel like it's subtle but effective. Like my skin is definitely more matte when I wear this product versus when I don't. I don't normally talk about sunscreens in these videos, although I can. This one just kind of sits in my makeup collection because it's like a sunscreen, a primer, all wrapped into one. It is a little bit of a thicker primer, so if you deal with texture like me, or you like something that you can really feel on the skin before you go in with makeup, this is nice because it just creates a very smooth, glowy base, which I feel like is perfect for the summertime, but it also protects your skin because it is a sunscreen as well. This is what it looks like before it dries down. So as you can see, it's pretty glowy. I mean, I have a lot of sunscreens that I think wear really well under makeup as well. So you don't necessarily have to run out and buy something that's marketed as a primer and a sunscreen all wrapped into one. But I do think it is a very nice texture, and my makeup applies really well on top of this. So I do have the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. This is one of my favorites. I've talked about it a million times on my channel, but it's very light. It's definitely thinner than that NYX primer, but it creates a really smooth matte base. So if you have oily skin in the summertime, definitely a must-have in my opinion. Even though I do tend to reach for a lot of matte primers, the e.l.f. Jelly Pop is one of my favorites too. This gives your skin a very dewy, very glowy finish. but because it is like a sticky gripping primer, your makeup will not move. In fact, this one really has been my go-to. Because I tend to reach for a lot of matte foundations, they pair so well with this because this really nice hydrated base basically counteracts the matte effect, and combined they just create the most perfect finish. And because it is like a gripping primer, makeup just lasts really well. Like by the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's like 90 degrees outside, my makeup looks so good every single time. Just really smooth, really gorgeous. And even when I go to wash my face, I'm still sometimes amazed by how good everything looks and how intact it actually is. Okay, so for foundation, I have a staple, the Catrice True Skin. I'll swatch all of the foundations when I'm done talking about them, just so you can see what the colors look like. But I took this out of my everyday makeup drawer for spring, just so I could focus on a few other formulas. But it is back in here because it is one of my longest wearing foundations. It has amazing coverage, it's really comfortable, and I love pairing this with the Jelly Pop Primer. That has been my go-to combo for very, very like hot, humid days when I want my makeup to last. I've also been loving this foundation. This is the CoverGirl True Blend Matte Made Foundation. I have the shade L40. This is a really great option if you have oily skin as well because it is a matte finish, but it's very lightweight. It definitely feels a little bit lighter on the skin than the than the Catrice foundation. But again, it stays in place really, really well, even on those super warm days. I haven't worn this one in a little while, but typically it is one of my go-to summer formulas, the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. It is very matte, and they call it like a waterproof, sweat-proof formula, and that is absolutely true. Like if you want full coverage, if you want like a comfortable finish, and you don't want it to move all day long, this is the one to try. It's such an old school favorite. Like people have loved this for years and years, but I feel like I don't hear people talking about it as much anymore, and it's just as good. Okay, so this one is the Catrice True Skin Foundation in Neutral Sand. This one is the CoverGirl Matte Made Foundation in L40 Classic Ivory. And then this one is the Catrice HD Foundation in Light Beige. So these are all of my like long wearing matte foundations swatched next to each other. They have similar feels like as you swatch them, but this one is probably the most satin looking on the skin. This one is the lightest weight on the skin, and this one probably has the most coverage, just for reference. The e.l.f. foundation is a little bit newer, but I've been wearing this one nonstop. I actually just ordered the shade that falls between these two. On the left is 15 Fair Warm, and then on the right is 21 Light Neutral. I think there was like a cooler tone shade right in the middle, and that should be here any day. So I'm excited to try that one because neither one of these matches me perfectly, but I love the formula so much. So usually I mix them together and then add like a little bit of a blue color corrector just to kind of cool them down. But it's such a beautiful medium coverage foundation that again stays in place well, which is my main goal in the summertime. This is from Typology. It's their tinted serum. It is so beautiful on the skin. I think I tried it last summer for the first time, and I just think it is such a good summertime option really all year long because it is so lightweight on the skin. I don't feel like it really falls into just one specific season, but I actually just gave this to my sister. She lives in Florida and we were visiting her, so I brought her some makeup products and I brought this for her. She actually wears the shade 3 because she has a much deeper skin tone than me. Our dad is Filipino, so she inherited like all of his genes. She's like his identical twin down to the skin tone and everything. But anyway, she loves this product. She doesn't wear foundation. She just thinks it doesn't feel good, and obviously like in the Florida heat, it's not always the most practical or the most comfortable. But anyway, she is enjoying it so much. So we have a very, I guess, kind of like opposite tastes when it comes to makeup a lot of the time, and she loves it as well. So such a great option, especially if you don't like the feel or the look of foundation, or you're someone who just wants like a little something to even out your skin tone. Okay, and then these are the two swatches of the e.l.f. Soft Glam Foundation. So this one is 15 Fair Warm. This one is 21 Light Neutral. And like I said, I did order the one in between, which I hope will match me a little bit better. And then this one, which hasn't fully dried down yet. Like once it dries down, it almost leans a little bit more matte, is the Typology Tinted Serum in the shade 1. So just wanted to swatch all of those for you in case you're considering any of them. Okay, for concealer, I have 3. So I have a staple formula. This is the Natasha Denona Hyglam Concealer in the shade N4. This is my favorite. It's pretty full coverage. It's very creamy, very comfortable. It stays in place well. I think when did I first try this? In the fall or the winter? And honestly, it's held up so well all year long. Like I still reach for this one quite a bit in the summertime. Sometimes I'll go very light, like light in texture with my concealers, but I took pretty much all of my other ones out because I wanted to rotate through a few of my other ones. So this one is from J.Cat Beauty. It's their Staysurance concealer. I remember this being very, very long wearing. I have the shade Buff, which I'm not sure is like a perfect shade match. I need to swatch these just to see. But again, I haven't worn this one in a really long time, so I wanted to break it back out. And then this is pretty old. It's the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, which I love so much. This has been a favorite for years and years. Okay, so this is Natasha Denona N4. This one probably has the most coverage out of the three that I'm swatching. This one is J.Cat Beauty in Buff. Actually, I think that shade is pretty good for summertime, so I'm excited to put that one back to the test because I remember it being really long lasting. And then this one is the Too Faced Born This Way in the shade Almond, which actually, now compared to these, this one feels kind of thin. It's definitely like a good medium coverage concealer. This one has a pretty satin finish, and I believe this J.Cat Beauty one dries down to be really matte. So again, Natasha Denona N4, J.Cat Beauty Buff, and then Too Faced Almond. So those are the concealers I'll be using over the next few months. I've been using the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop powder quite a bit. This one's in the shade Light. This is nice because it is super matte, so it keeps your skin matte all day long, but it's also very, very long wearing, so it helps your foundation stay in place well, and it just provides a little bit of coverage, so I feel like it just makes the skin look extra good when I use it. I also have the Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder. I've actually been using this to set my concealer into place. It does brighten up the skin nicely, but it's very soft, really, really silky. So I feel like it makes my under eyes look really smooth. This is newer from Catrice. It's the All Matte Plus Shine Control Powder. I feel like this is a good pressed translucent matte powder. It's also nice for touch-ups. I don't really always take the time to touch my makeup up throughout the day, but sometimes if I'm, if I come home, if I'm out and then I'm going back out for some reason, I will. And this is a great powder for those reasons, but it's also nice for just setting all of your makeup into place. And then the loose powder I have in here is not a new launch. I bought this a while ago. It's the Milk Makeup Pore Eclipse Translucent Loose Setting Powder, but I haven't tried it because there are so many loose powders I love. So I always end up reaching for like Huda Beauty or Patrick Star over this one. Okay, let's move on to cheek products. So I only have one cream bronzer in here. I took out the Makeup Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer because last time I did my everyday makeup drawer, I had just purchased this one from LYS Beauty, and this has become my go-to. I've always loved this formula, but I got a new shade. So I have the shade Hope, which is actually, it's not close to my skin tone, but it's a little bit more subtle compared to other bronzer shades I have. The Makeup Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer is so pigmented, and sometimes I feel like I can over apply that product. So this is nice because it melts into my skin and it just looks a little bit more natural. So I've been reaching for this one a ton. Other than that, I don't have any other cream bronzers, or I guess this is technically, it's a bronzer duo. It's from Give by Gwen Stefani. This is their Pick It Up Cream Contour and Powder Bronzer Duo in the shade Toastin'. So I bought this, I think it was Black Friday weekend, and I picked up a few products from the brand, and I don't know, I haven't been like in love with any of them. I feel like some of them are fine, but nothing has become an absolute staple except for the highlighter. I do really like that. So I thought I would put this in my drawer in an attempt to really wear it a little bit more. Let me just swatch it for you. It swatches really nice. This is the cream and then this is the powder. I like the tones a lot. I just feel like I tend to overlook it because I have a lot of staple products I end up reaching for over this. We're going out of town at the end of July, so maybe I'll bring this with me and then just leave all of my other bronzers at home, so I'll kind of be forced to really focus on using it so I can make up my mind. I'm going to kick my declutter series back up very soon, so I kind of want to make my mind up on a few products before I either keep them or declutter them. I do have 4 different powder bronzers, which is kind of excessive now that I'm looking at it, but I feel like summer and bronzer to me just makes sense. Like I rarely skip bronzer at all in general, but especially not during the summertime. And I am just loving powder bronzer again. I never thought I'd see the day because I've been on such a cream bronzer kick. And usually I will kind of set my cream bronzer with powder bronzer, but it's not something I get excited about. The bronzer that kind of made me fall back in love with powder bronzer is this one from e.l.f. This is their primer infused bronzer, and I have the shade Tan O'Clock. Again, I'll swatch the formulas next to each other just so you can see what the different tones are like. This is so creamy, incredibly smooth. This looks amazing on the skin. If you have trouble with bronzer looking patchy or muddy or uneven, try this formula because no matter what makeup I'm wearing underneath, this applies perfectly. It really does. I can't really make my mind up about this Makeup by Mario one. This is the Soft Sculpt Bronzer in the shade Light. Again, I picked this up I think on Black Friday weekend, and maybe it's just because I wasn't wearing like a lot of powder bronzer. I haven't reached for it a ton, but again, because I am going to be doing my declutter soon, I want to make sure I give this one a really fair shot. I think the color is really beautiful. Again, I think it's just that I wasn't reaching for like this type of formula as much, and when I do use a Makeup by Mario bronzer, I just love his cream bronzer. This is the NYX Matte Bronzer in the shade Light, which is really pretty. This one's a little bit, I don't know that it's orangey on me, but it's maybe slightly more warm toned than I typically go for day to day, but I haven't used this one in a little while. I feel like it's a nice summertime staple. And then this one is from Rimmel. It's their natural bronzer in the shade Sunlight. This one is incredibly soft, very, very subtle. I haven't really used it in a little while either, so I just thought I would put all of these in my drawer so I could really decide which ones I love, which ones I don't need. Okay, so here are the swatches. They actually look a lot different when they're swatched next to each other. This one is e.l.f. Tan O'Clock. The second one right here is Makeup by Mario Light. This one is the NYX Matte Bronzer in Light. And then this one over here is Rimmel London in Sunlight. ColourPop just came out with these. I haven't even tried them. I did get these in the mail as PR, so these are their weightless liquid blushes. I just chose 2 to try out for now. So the applicator is super cute. It has like a little heart right here, and then you open it up. I'm assuming it's going to look like the Rare Beauty applicator. Okay, there's a lot of blush on there. I can already tell this is not as liquidy of a formula. It almost, let's just swatch it. I think it almost has more of like a gel type texture or like a moussey texture to it. So I'm curious to know how these are going to apply to the skin. So on the left is Angel Face, on the right is Too Shy. They definitely don't feel like the Rare Beauty blushes just initially. I mean, they're liquid blushes, but I feel like there's a slight gel feel to them in a way. I do think the e.l.f. liquid blushes are basically identical dupes to Rare Beauty. So if you're looking for a good dupe, I think that's a nice option. I want to try these out. I have a couple of new drugstore products, like I said, so I'll do a video probably within the next few days actually applying them to the skin. All right, so let me swatch the Essence blushes for you. I have the shade Pretty Peach, which is one of my favorites on days where I want a little bit of a warmer look. This one is Pink Flush, which I've been using this with my Rare Beauty blush I think in the shade Hope. And then this one is Shimmery Rose, which is pretty shimmery. I feel like if I want like a good glow to the skin, this is what I reach for. This one is Pretty Peach, this one is Pink Flush, and then this one is Shimmery Rose. Pink Flush actually has the most obvious glitter in it. It's weird because when I apply these to the skin, I don't always see the glitter, but sometimes when you swatch them, like you can really tell which ones are glittery. So this one is almost full on glittery. Like I said, they do have darker shades. These are like some of the lightest shades, so they're great if I want a more subtle look, but again, they pair really nicely with liquid blush too. I just have 2 of the Milani blushes. So I have Luminoso, which is like a true summertime staple. It's really gorgeous, very peachy and warm. And then Rose d'Oro, which again is very warm, kind of bronzy. I actually ordered a new one. And what's the shade? I forget what the name is. I wanted like a very pink one because I've been loving these Essence pink blushes so much. On the left is Luminoso, and then on the right is Rose d'Oro. These can tend to look a little bit sparkly on the skin too, but they are really stunning for summer. This is the Kosas Baked Blush in the shade Dreamland. It's a really pretty color. It's kind of like a bronzy nude. It's not super dramatic on my skin tone, but I think it is so pretty for the summertime because it just gives the skin like a perfect flush of color without being too over the top. This Kosas formula is so smooth. I know a lot of people are comparing these to Laura Geller. I used to love the Laura Geller baked blushes so much. Like back in the day, I had like 6 or 7 of them. I don't find the formulas to be very similar. Like this is very smooth. The Laura Geller leans, it has almost like that true baked texture like Milani, and those tend to be a little bit more glittery and shimmery and a lot more pigmented, whereas this doesn't feel like a typical baked blush. Like when you touch it, it's so smooth. It's almost like a creamy powder. Even though they look like the Laura Geller blushes, I feel like the formulas are very, very different. See how this one kind of has like a nice, very soft satin sheen to it. It's really pretty on the skin. So I feel like if you are a fan of like a natural looking blush on the skin, something that looks really smooth and even and is just easy to apply, this is a great formula to try. I don't really have any highlighters in here. I usually just use my Rare Beauty highlighters, and those actually just sit in like the second drawer, which has like all of my lip liners, some of my go-to eyeliners, just products that I don't switch up very much. And because that is my go-to formula, I don't always put it in this specific drawer, but I do have the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Glow Stick. This is really pretty. I cannot get enough of this. I think it looks so stunning on the skin. Like, it is the most glass-like highlighter I've ever tried. It's really, really beautiful, and it just goes with every makeup look because it does have more of a translucent base to it. I feel like it's not, I mean, it's definitely like a pearly color, but it doesn't look colorful on the skin. Like, it just gives you that glass-like sheen that is so stunning. Actually, I have two more products back here. I just remembered. These are both from Patrick Ta. So this is the Blush Duo in Not Too Much. This has been in my drawer ever since I purchased it. I love it. It's like the perfect everyday shade or everyday duo. It just looks really pretty on the skin. And then I also have the highlighter duo in Baby. So I did talk about this in my like worst products I've tried recently video. It really, in my opinion, is not worth the $40. I definitely wouldn't say it's unusable. Like, I could see myself reaching for this on occasion. I don't know. I don't plan on decluttering it right now. I might change my mind in a month or two. It's really just an underwhelming formula in my opinion. I like the idea of this balm because it looks pretty, and honestly the powder looks better with the balm applied on top of it because this is kind of like a chalky, underwhelming powder highlight. So if you take the balm and kind of tap it on top, when it's on the skin, it melts the powder into the skin in a really pretty way. But it's not super long lasting. There's not a lot of color, which is fine. I guess I don't know why he came out with like 5 different options. I've only tried this one, and I feel like I've seen a lot of negative reviews, so I just don't have any interest in trying the other shades personally. But there are so many good highlighters out there, and there are so many good Patrick Ta products that I would recommend going with another Patrick Ta product altogether and pretty much any other highlighter out there. $40 for this, it's just too much. It's not Patrick Ta quality, to be honest. So I have it in my drawer just in an attempt to actually use it a little bit more. But if I find I'm really not reaching for it much over like the next month or two, I probably will just declutter it. Okay, let's talk lip products. I have a really random assortment of lip products in here. I honestly just put everything that I'm currently using in this section right here. So these really are like my current go-to products. So I have a couple of lip oils. This is the Essence Hydra Kiss Lip Oil. This one is in the shade Kiss from a Rose, which it's basically just like a clear. So I feel like this is nice on days where I don't want to wear any sort of color, which doesn't normally happen, but sometimes I'll pair it with like a good lip liner I love. I've really been enjoying the ColourPop So Juicy Plumping Glossy Lip Oil. So I have two. I have Hit Stiff and Flirty Text. I'm not like particularly, like I don't have to have these shades. I can't find my other ones because I've been wearing them a ton. These are so, so gorgeous. I mean, Hit Stiff is a really nice color. Flirty Text is pretty much clear, but Hit Stiff has like a little bit of color to it. It's kind of like a pinky nude, nothing too intense, but these are so nice. They're so glossy and gorgeous. They do have like a peppermint, minty, vanilla scent to them, which is pretty strong. So if you don't like scented lip products, those might not be for you. They do smell very, very similar to the e.l.f. lip oils, which I love too. So right now I have Coral Fixation and Honey Talks. Again, I feel like I use all of these. I can't ever find them because they're the type of product that I throw in my bag or bring with me. Honey Talks is probably my favorite just because it has like a little bit of color to it. It's this one right here. And it's really pretty, especially over a nude liner. Again, very minty smelling. I guess the ColourPop ones have like that touch of vanilla, which I think makes them smell a little bit better, whereas the e.l.f. ones are like full-on minty. I don't love the minty scent that brands are doing. This is from Catrice. This is the Gloss and Glow Lip Oil. This one is in the shade Drama Mama. So I wasn't wearing this one a ton over the last few months, but I feel like it is really nice for the summertime. I feel like swatching this one doesn't really do it justice. On the lips, it gives your lips like this beautiful, juicy red sheen. Because it is like a pH adjusting formula, I think it looks a little bit more dramatic on the lips than it does when you swatch it. This is the Amicole Lip Treatment Oil in the shade Excellence, which is marketed as a lip oil, but I mean, it's basically a gloss, and that's probably the case for a lot of the other formulas I just showed you too, but this is so stunning. It's so glassy on the skin, kind of, or glassy on the lips, kind of like the ColourPop So Juicy lip oils, a little bit sticky, but very long lasting. This is the Essence What a Tint, which I will use on the lips if I want my color to last a little bit longer. I can swatch this for you. I mean, you can use this on the cheeks too, but I love it on the lips because you can just go in with a very small amount and it just gives your lips the prettiest soft tint. And I love the color. Usually I'll pair this with like a clear gloss, or I love using it with the Catrice lip jams. And if I want like the color to last all day, and then I have a formula that I like to reapply like the Catrice lip jams, that's perfect underneath. This is the e.l.f. Sun Boss Gloss. I have the shade Blush Much. I actually just ordered another shade of this. This is a really nice formula. It's a little bit thicker, very shiny, very glossy, kind of balmy. I feel like it's getting some mixed reviews. There's like a slight stickiness to it, but it does provide like long-lasting moisture throughout the day, and it does have SPF 25. So it's kind of nice if you're like me and you're someone who tends to forget to apply sunscreen to your lips. And the e.l.f. gloss is nice because it doesn't really taste like sunscreen. There's like a slight coconut scent, but it's not too noticeable. These are the Flower Beauty Plump Up Gloss Sticks. So I've been talking about these a lot because I tried the Catrice Glossy Sticks and I really didn't like them. They're a little bit more balmy, and I feel like a really good alternative is this formula from Flower Beauty. So I wanted to break these back out. So I have a couple, I think I have all of them except clear. This one is Sizzle, this one is Spicy, this one is Fiery, this one is Heated, and this one is Toasted. Toasted is probably my most worn, but these are so nice. They're incredibly lightweight. They're not as thick as like the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips, and they do lean a little bit more sheer than some other formulas, but they're nice if you don't want something too thick or glossy, something too heavy. Like I said, these are a little bit more balmy, so they're more comfortable. A few more glossy sticks. I have some from Hourglass, which I love so, so much. Hourglass, their version is pretty expensive. So anytime I've gotten them on sale during like an Ulta 21 Days of Beauty or some kind of sale where I can get a pretty good discount. I'm just double checking the name. So I have Desire, which is this one, and Trace. These are glossy. Like, it's hard to differentiate the formulas as you're talking about them. But I feel like you can just tell with these swatches. Like, they look a little bit messy, but that's why they look so good on the lips, because they are incredibly glossy, super shiny. They don't look like this on the lips. Like, they're not messy because you blend them in or you apply like a smaller amount. But look at that shine. Like, if you want a shiny, glossy formula, this is the one to try, although they are more expensive. I definitely don't think you have to spend the money on those because there are a lot of great alternatives. I do like the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. This is the plumping version, and this one is the shade Poppy, which I just think is really fun when I want like a nice pop of color. It's a little bit thicker, very, very moisturizing, but again, still really shiny and smooth. And then I have the e.l.f. Pout Clout Lip Plumping Pens, which I have been wearing a lot lately too. These are nice because I almost think these lean more in the lipstick direction than any of the other formulas I just talked about. They're still shiny, very moisturizing, really smooth, but I kind of use them in place of lipstick because they're slightly longer lasting. So I have Toasted, Just Peachy, and then Pinky Out. So that's what they look like. Toasted is probably my favorite. I think that is like the most flattering on my skin tone, but they're nice because you can pair them with lip liner and you get the pigment of a lipstick, but the shine of a gloss. And they are longer lasting than some of the other formulas, definitely longer lasting than Flower Beauty because they're a little bit thicker, but because they are thicker, I don't think everyone likes the formula as much because they can tend to feel like a little bit heavy on the lips. These are the Hard Candy Glosstopia Lip Slide Creamy Lip Oils. These are so cute. I love the packaging. So the original Hard Candy lip oils were not my favorite because of the scent and the taste, but I thought the formula was pretty good. And this summer they did a Girl Scouts cookie collab, and I really liked those because they smelled like Girl Scout cookies instead of the original formula, which has like a weird scent. So anyway, they just came out with this new formula, which I have worn like twice at this point. I'm still trying to make my mind up about these. They look really gorgeous. Like, they have this beautiful, smooth, shiny finish to them. They do feel like a traditional lip oil, like very slippery, very glossy. Like, this shade is so pretty on the lips because it's like a light, natural, softer nude on me, so it just kind of blends in without being too much. The deeper shades are a little bit harder to wear because I feel like they almost have a little bit too much pigment, again, for me. If you have a different skin tone or different preferences, you might not feel the same way. But when I apply like this plum on my lips, because it is such a slippery formula, it almost just ends up making a little bit of a mess. Just for reference, here's the red one, and then the light pink one is pretty soft too. I think the formula is so nice. Like I'm trying to think what I would, if there's anything I have that feels like this, and I don't think there is. They feel really good. They don't have a weird scent or a weird taste. They almost smell like a little bit vanilla-y. So I'm excited to use them a little bit more. I think they're nice. I just feel like they do have some potential cons. So I'll keep you posted on these. I don't have a ton of eyeshadow palettes in here, to be honest with you. I don't know. I'm not feeling like super excited about eyeshadow at the moment. That does change like month to month, but typically I am using this palette, this little quad from e.l.f. I have like 2 or 3 of these right now. I usually repurchase this like every few months because I end up hitting pan on all of the shades, and then they tend to get a little bit crumbly, but this is the bite-sized palette in I Love You a Latte. So usually I just take one of these shades in the crease. I'll use this as eyeliner or in the outer corner to darken it up, and then I'll use this as a highlight shade. And then for the lid, I'll either use like a ColourPop Super Shock shadow, or I'll use one of the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows. So I have Space Cowboy and then I have Cosmic. So I'll use these with the e.l.f. palette, but sometimes I'll use these with other palettes I have as well. When I am doing something a little bit more dramatic, I've been using the Natasha Denona Golden palette. I did do a review on this palette. I just don't think people were as excited about this one as they have been other Natasha Denona launches, and I do love it. Now that I've had it for, I don't even know, over a month at least, I can definitely say it was worth the money for me. Like I end up reaching for this when I do want a little bit more drama on the eyes. I think the quality is really gorgeous, but if you have these shades in your collection like 10 times over at this point, even like 1 or 2 times over, you probably don't need this. And I do find that a lot of these shades are easily replicated. Maybe not identically, but you can get a very, very similar vibe. If you want to see some of the palettes that I swatched that I find that are very close, I'll link my review in the description box below, but I do think it is a pretty palette. I love her formula. I probably didn't need this one, to be honest, and I don't use it as much as I need a nude. But I do think the tones are really pretty. It's fun for summer. I'll definitely be using this as we head into the fall season as well. So I am enjoying it. This is the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3, which is just like a good staple neutral palette. Again, kind of boring to a lot of people, but I do find that this formula is really, really good. Very easy, very quick to use. So I don't always use this on days where I want like a very soft, natural look, but I'll tend to reach for this on days where I want something a little bit more involved. Like if I want a dramatic smoky eye, this is nice. If I do want like 1 or 2 shades in the crease that are not super warm or super cool, this is perfect because these are just kind of like toned down shadows, which sometimes is what I'm going for. So I love having this too. Let's talk about this section up here, which has all of my mascaras, eyeliners, brow products. So I do have the Tower 28 Make Waves mascara, which is my go-to. I always have this one on hand just because it is my absolute favorite. And it does a really great job of just like lifting, curling the lashes, adding volume and length. Like most of the time when I'm wearing makeup, this is what I'm wearing. Or the Milani highly rated anti-gravity mascara. Last time I did my everyday makeup drawer, I had this in the black brown shade, which honestly looks very similar to black, but I just prefer black because it is more dramatic. I think this one is a great option if you want volume and length. This is one that I've talked about recently, the Covergirl Eye Enhancer Mascara. So this one is in the berry brown shade. I do want to buy it in black, but I need to make my way through a few of these first. But if you want like a gorgeous kind of like burgundy toned mascara, this is amazing. It looks so pretty on the lashes. I always have this one on hand. Again, it's not always in this drawer. Like I actually have a drawer under this drawer where I keep a lot of my go-to products that I just don't switch out, and I usually have this mascara in there. It's the Milani Highly Rated Lash Extensions Mascara. I always use this on my bottom lashes just because it stays in place really well and it does grab onto every single lash, but I also like using this with mascaras that are good at giving volume but not length, because this just extends the lashes so well and it stays in place nicely throughout the day. This is new. I haven't tried it. It's the Naturally Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. So it's weird because the original Better Than Sex mascara, just it's never worked for me, but I like every other version of it. I like the waterproof version, the brown the brown chocolate version, whatever they call that one. So I thought I would try this one. I think it's made with like naturally derived ingredients. I don't know if it's going to be a lot different than the original, but again, it's so weird how the original one doesn't typically work for me, but all the other versions do. So I figured I would try this. I got this in the mail as PR a long time ago, and it's just kind of been sitting there, so I want to put it to the test. I have the e.l.f. Lock It Down Eyeshadow Primer, which is so good. This convinced me to like eyeshadow primer again, because before I was using this, I wasn't really into eyeshadow primer for a little while. I was just using concealer and powder, but I swear this works so well. It's very creamy, so it just kind of transforms any powdery shadow and makes it apply and last really well on the skin. So I'm enjoying that a lot. For brows, I have the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Mascara or Brow Gel. This has been my go-to lately. I've been using it nonstop. It just adds volume, thickness. It gives your brows a really pretty full effect, and it also locks them into place. And then I've been trying to use up some of my older brow pencils. This is from Kosas. It's their Brow Pop Dual Action Defining Pencil. I don't really feel any way about it. My favorite brow pencil is the NYX Micro Brow Pencil, but I have a few other brow pencils that I've had open, so I just figured I would start using them up. I do have two brow pens. I have the Milani Weekend Brow and the NYX Lift and Snatch. I kind of use them interchangeably. I feel like the NYX one is a little bit darker, so when I want more of a dramatic look, I'll reach for NYX. And then the Milani Weekend Brow is just slightly softer, so on days where I have more of a natural makeup look, I'll use that one, but really, I could be good with either one. I did repurchase the Urban Decay Brow Blade, and they redid the packaging. I hope the formula is not different. I'm kind of nervous. The Brow Blade is one of my all-time favorite products. It just stays in place so well. It has like the perfect amount of pigment, the perfect texture. It doesn't move. I love the tone. I do love everything about this. And then on the other side, there is a brow pen that I think is really great too. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll put a couple of recent videos for you on the screen in case you're interested in seeing something else. Let me know in the comments below what types of videos you want to see on my channel over the next few weeks so I can add them to my list. Oh, and like I said, stay tuned because my declutter series is coming back. I don't know that I'll do them all like right away at the same time, but I will have some declutter videos coming up over the next few months. Okay, I'll see you guys very soon with a new one. Bye.